Forgive me there. I panicked for a minute there. I saw that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moriah Nightly News on this 4/29, 2026. What you see here is a new setup, and that's why I panicked because the software said something was overloaded. Um, so I am not sure how any of this is going to work. This is equipment that I had when I was doing a podcast a couple of years ago, and I'm hoping that it will improve the audio with the video going forward, especially since the Moriah Nightly News airs on the podcasting platforms. So hopefully, um, everything goes off without a hitch. If it does not, I will have to figure out a solution and probably uh, remake a video some other time. Um, so you know, you roll with it and you make plans. And as they say, when you make plans, God laughs. That tends to be how it is. Um, it seems to be healthy according to Restream. So hopefully everything is going to look um, look fine. Probably it's on the video end that the issue is, which I'll have to fix that down the road. So, from the nation to Mariah, here are the news. Here is the news that matters for today. It was a busy couple of days in the news, especially on the national stage with King Charles III visiting, but also locally, it was very busy today with some things going on around the region. King Charles III did visit despite objections at home, with the Prime Minister and some others not wanting him to visit in light of their distaste for the president. And it was um, met very cordially and with a joint address, or not a joint address, but that's the wrong choice of words there. It was met with an address to Congress. The king did address Congress. It was only the second time in U.S. history that that has been done. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, addressed Congress back in 1991 in a very different political situation following the Persian Gulf War. And what was noted by some outlets was that it was a rather unified moment when she addressed Congress compared to the present moment with um, approval or relations between the UK and the US being at a kind of an all time low, at least in the post war world. Now, both leaders, from what I saw, uh, appeared to want to affirm and uphold the special relationship between the US and the UK. The president and the monarch both wanted to affirm that, perhaps in different directions, but maybe different in a parallel sense, is what I saw. I did watch President Trump's opening remarks. I did not see the King's speech as of yet, but um, the president made a lot of references to uh, American involvement in the Second World War, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and things like that that um, were of interest there. The military was on hand. I did find it interesting that there was almost like a military parade. I think that is what NBC called it, with King Charles III, I guess, observing the military, which to me sounded very interesting. One thing that was interesting was President Trump joked that his mother had a crush on King Charles when she was alive and would watch royal events. This is when Charles was much younger, of course, and so that was definitely noteworthy as well. So, this, of course, is in the midst of the tension over the situation in the Middle East and with Iran. And that, of course, begs the question of what is going on in Iran. And so I will tell you what's going on in Iran. And that seems to be that the country economically is on the verge of collapse. And that is not as much of an exaggeration at this point as the m- mainstream or the big media would claim that it would be, um, because the reports are suggesting, or they're flat out saying, that Iran is looking to ship oil by rail to China because they are that desperate to ship it by another route other than the Strait of Hormuz because it's shut down. They cannot get anything out by sea because the U.S. Navy has shut it down completely. And so it has completely crippled Iran. And so at this point, what the negotiations look like is that it's basically, as it's phrased um, by the Wall Street Journal's reporting, whoever blinks first. And the question is, more or less, will Trump outlast the Iranians? And I will leave you to decide that. Um, so that's what's being decided here is who will be the first to blink, as the Iranians have uh, used the strait as the bargaining tool here and leveraged high fuel prices as leverage. And Trump is attempting through the military to cut that off. And it, regardless of what's being told elsewhere, it appears, in my estimation, to be effective, given that they are scrambling to get that oil out. Um, Now, what to me is clear that the fallout from this is very critical to where President Trump's presidency will go. And it is very much his reputation or legacy, whatever you want to call it, is very much at stake. Given the certainly the economic fallout, but in particular, there is a question of food production and the strain on the third world or the developing world, if you will. So there's no doubt whether you are a Trump ally or a Trump hater. I think it is objectively clear that um, whether Trump is seen as good or bad will depend on the outcome of this war, whether we like it or not. And it does seem to me from the everything that I've looked at that our military has fought well in this conflict and has done their duty well, whether you support the war or not. And they should be support. The military should be supported always by everyone, um, unless you hate America, which seems to be that a lot of people do these days. Anyway, but again, some of that's my opinion, and you're free to disagree with that. On the local level, now the state did not have too much to turn up. We had challenges getting the information with the sources at our disposal over the last couple of days. The budget story is, we're still following up on that, which is still hung up in the legislature. So that will be followed up on for Friday's broadcast, and really in part because we had so much coming in locally that it was impossible to organize and keep up with it, along with trying to get this setup off the ground, which might still be giving us problems. Who knows on how the stream quality is on the other end? I'm hoping and praying on a whim that it's still working out just fine for anyone watching or listening. The Ticonderoga news was that the firehouse vote that was somewhat controversial for the community down there did pass in a vote that was approximately 350 to 320. So it looks like it was a very narrow margin, but it did pass. There was a concern for the citizens of Ticonderoga with taxes and raising of assessments and things like that. But it did pass. Really, a very low turnout, I felt when I read that, was my first instinct that really for a town with Ticonderoga's population, that seems like a very small fraction that would turn out for something like that with the community concern. Um, and for our area, the lack of participation and involvement in the political process has always been a concern, at least for myself, and I'm sure for others. So that will be something to watch in the future in terms of involvement in the political process. Uh, we also heard reports or follow up to a previous story that we had reported on about the North Country Rural Development in Ticonderoga. Of course, I wrote down the acronym, the NCRDC. I believe that's council is the last word on that. I didn't think to write that full thing down because I thought I'd remember it. They were previously the Pride of Ticonderoga, and remember I said that was not Pride you're thinking of. But they had gotten that $1.9 million allotment from the state for housing. This was a part of that $25 billion housing plan for our brilliant governor that we have, and that was a that was in addition to. Now, this was the new piece that we got in tonight. In addition to the $2.1 million for the vacant rented program from 12 months ago. So, um, pretty significant in terms of the money that's being thrown at that. And to me, it's significant to follow the amount of money that New York State throws at anything um, when you can actually follow where your tax dollars actually go and are being spent. And you hope on things that are useful. And um, not that I'm saying housing isn't useful, but that it always is important, I think, to hold those in power accountable. Uh, more locally, for those that might be out in the Hague area that follow or listen to us, there was a huge brush fire out there this afternoon that I noticed or picked up on in my travels. There was a problem with water, getting water to the scene. It Of course, it's in Warren County, so I can't say what the burn ban is out that way. I know that Essex County is under the yearly burn ban here, but I don't know what I think it's Warren County. It's either Warren or Washington. I'm not sure which county, but it's not in Essex County, so there's no burn ban there. Forgive my lack of geography. But basically, getting water to the scene was a problem, so they were calling for departments up this way, Ticonderoga. Um, Crown Point was at least on standby from what I had seen. I think they did go. I believe I saw them on the roads when I was traveling. Moriah, and they were calling for the northern department or departments north of Moriah up to Elizabethtown, Woolsboro, up that way, from what I had heard on the scanner this afternoon. And I happened to be close by enough to get that report. So that was sort of a stroke of luck on my part there. The So that was around the area. Right here in Mariah, we had a good chunk of news as well. We reported on Monday, which I want to correct slightly. Well, two pieces that I want to correct slightly from the Monday broadcast. One local, one national. The national one was that I had said at somewhere towards the top of that broadcast that president was headed to Russia following the assassination attempt. That was basically just a misreading of the Wall Street Journal article there. It was not. It was either that it was scheduled at a later date, or that he is doing that by phone. Had gotten back on the phone with Vladimir Putin at that point in time and didn't miss a beat. I think was bit of a misunderstanding of the article there, so I would forgive my misreporting there. And locally, I want to make sure that I just make it clear this was not so much a misreport, just a perhaps jumping the gun a little bit. I mentioned what was the future of All Saints Church in Mineville. It is not slated for definite closure at this point in time, but it is being discussed or debated, we'll put it that way, uh, given given different factors, the most significant being perhaps the deficit of $20,000 there that was mentioned um, both at Mass over the weekend and and at the town hall meetings that were held. One was held in Westport on Monday night, and the other was held last night in Port Henry, which I did attend and have information here to report on. So this is very much a tough issue, um, very much a tough situation for these churches that were needing basically out of necessity with um, shortages of priests and lack of resources needing to combine under one pastor, one priest, and that has um, how do I want to put that? Anytime there's a new arrangement, things get a little bit dicey there, and that's kind of what was seen at that meeting, and so there's a lot of a lot of hurt feelings can come up at these things. And it's never easy. It's certainly not easy for anyone to see these things happening and to have to face these realities. But this is where we are. That right now for Essex County, there are only 3 Catholic priests in Essex County. They're active. So that's active versus retired. And what, and I have the numbers. So this sheet, and I'm sure that if you're listening on the podcast platforms, you're not going to see this, but that's why you should, well, that'll give you a reason to go look it up on YouTube later. This is the sheet that was given at the meeting. So it's very, very detailed, very structured, very detailed of the proposed new mass schedule for the parishes that are represented here, and the mass attendance at the 4 parishes or churches. Let me technically, Mineville and Port Henry have been combined for well over a decade now. And you have the mass attendance for the last year and a breakdown of attendance by age. And I think there's some numbers with visitors thrown in there. Um, there goes my pen. A very, very detailed look at um, how people are going to mass time, things like that. So it was very, very detailed. I give Father Joe some credit here for pulling that together as an administrator. And so the proposed change would not affect the 11 o'clock mass at St. Patrick's, and it would basically affect the 4 o'clock mass at All Saints because it would take that off the docket completely and would therefore bring into question what to do with that property in the long term. The state of the physical condition of those buildings there are not good. They're very much run down, especially the rectory there. I mean, the rectory, from what was discussed there, is pretty much in ruins. So it's not really feasible to repair any of those. The church is in a little bit better shape, but it would take a good amount of money to bring it to where it should be. And um, all St. Patrick's certainly has some work as well with both the church and the rectory there too. I think. I mean, I know that the church had some repairs done in the recent years, but it looks like. But some of the buildings there, we're told, that could use some work as well. But it's not really feasible to do both of those at this point. Now, what I would say, now this is again, now this I will give you my take on this, that the numbers would indicate, at least here in Moriah, that the spiritual center for, at least on the Catholic side, is definitely in Port Henry. I mean, the numbers don't lie there when you have uh, an average of 107 on a Sunday morning in Port Henry compared to 48 in Mineville for the 4 o'clock mass. On grid, that's on a Saturday, but I'm not so sure that that really would make much of a difference if it were on a Saturday or a Sunday morning. Now, what's interesting to me for the Elizabethtown and Westport breakdown is they're about breaking even for at least the year-round average, a little higher in Westport. Um, Summertime, it peaked up a little higher there, it looks like. Um, but so some tough decision to make there. Um, what may end up being the case for the Elizabethtown Westport, that could come down to geography in the long run. Was my is That's my guess. That's my personal strategic guess, is that if you're trying to basically, it's almost like cutting a pie, figuring out what to slice out and what to keep, that you have to make those decisions based. Some of that might come down to geography, and of course you're looking at numbers too. But it definitely seems like St. Patrick's is the spiritual center there for